From the Kansas City Sports Update Studio, this is the Richard Smith Show, where we talk about all things Kansas City Chiefs, brought to you by Arrowhead-update. Check us out on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Spreaker, CastBox, YouTube, Player FM, and all third-party applications. Check out the Richard Smith Show on Facebook platforms such as Arrowhead Update and Kansas City Sports Update. And if you cannot find us there, just Google or search The Richard Smith Show and Kansas City Chiefs, and I promise you will find us.
How are we doing, Chiefs Kingdom? It is Thursday, June 13th, and we have some football to talk today here in Chiefs Kingdom. We got some signings that have happened today here in the mandatory camp, and we have Kris Chavez here this evening to discuss Chiefs with us and the running back depth. How are we doing tonight, Kris?
I'm doing fantastic, man. How are you doing?
Couldn't be better. I'm really excited to get into these topics today. There's some pretty good stuff coming out of Chiefs Kingdom, huh?
Yes, there is. Very exciting stuff.
Well, let's start off with harrison-butker. Look, this cat came in, has really been a staple in the Chiefs special teams. Is an amazing field goal kicker, replacing Carlos Santos.
Yeah.
He signed a 5-year, $20 million deal. What's that mean to Kansas City?
Well, it means that we're going to have some consistent kickers, or a consistent kicker for the next several years, man. Since he came to us 2 years ago off the Carolina Panthers practice squad, he's just been the definition of consistency for us.
Yes, absolutely. And it's been one of those things that he's been clutch in a lot of moments. He's had one, hiccup or two, which I don't hold that against him, and I don't really understand why any Chiefs fan would. But the man deserves that contract, 5 years, $20 million. Also, we have some more news that Mitchell-Schwartz. What happened with Mitchell-Schwartz contract? What did we do there?
So his contract wasn't up for another year. It's supposed to end in 2020. But we gave him a 1-year contract extension through 2021, which I think is well-deserved. The guy's been playing absolutely lights out for us. And he's kind of had to live in Fisher's shadow for the last couple of years. But statistically, he's probably one of the best right tackles, if not tackles, in the league, statistically speaking. And he's been playing on, I think it was like $6 million contract per year. I mean, he was vastly underpaid. So that contract extension was well-deserved.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that I feel like our offensive line doesn't get as much credit as it deserves. And there's a lot of people that aren't, too keen on our number one pick from a few years back. But I look at our offensive line, and it's just, it's always been consistent for the Kansas City Chiefs and Chiefs Kingdom. I think that's something that we should embrace, and it's nice to see Schwartz, get his money and get an extension. We need him in Kansas City.
Yeah, I will disagree with you. I can't say that we always had a solid offensive line. There were a couple of years there where we had a sieve for an offensive line. But since Reed came in, he's really put it together and created some real depth there for us. So that, looking at last year when we lose Tardif, we fill him in with Wiley, and he steps in fantastically. Morse goes out, Reeder steps in, and you really don't have any sort of loss in gameplay there.
Which is a perfect scenario, for the Chiefs. And then especially getting Tardif back, that's one thing that he's a huge impact on the Chiefs offensive line. And I think that'll open up holes for Damian Williams and Carlos Hyde here in this upcoming season.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's extremely important for us to have a line that can protect Mahomes. I know that he can run around and scramble, but let's be honest, we don't want him running around like that.
Yeah, no, we want to keep him as protected as possible in that offensive line. It starts with the tackles, really, because their outside shoulders are the ones that are the weak points and where they're getting attacked at. And if you can hold the line on those edges, man, and that's a huge benefit for the quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. I would. There's tons of great things that the offensive line creates for the offense that just gets overlooked. But here, let's talk about Travis Kelce. He will be ready for training camp, and he said he wants to be a Kansas City Chief for life. I really would love to see him stay here in Kansas City with everything that he's done. You know, the 3,000-yard seasons in a row here, double-digit touchdowns last year. The man's really come into his own, and Kansas City could not embrace, anyone more, besides a Patrick-Mahomes. So what do you think? What do you think with Kelce? This is a staple to our offense.
No, absolutely he is. I mean, the things that he does underneath, or even in some play situations, how he stretches the defense in depth. I mean, he's creating mismatches, and he's finding the holes in the zones. I mean, the ability that this guy brings to our offense, the versatility that he has is absolutely tremendous. And if we were to go into the season tomorrow, we would be at a huge disadvantage because we're going to be losing that versatility. We don't really have a true number 2 tight end on the roster right now. We have a lot of projects and guys who are fast and capable receivers, but we don't have tight ends who can also block really well. I'm thinking that Veach is probably going to be looking to bring somebody in after training camp, after the cuts, and see if we can maybe steal somebody off of somebody else's squad.
Which Veach is very capable of getting that done, and he always seems to have, his binoculars out, looking for that next man up and that next talent, and that's an important aspect in our franchise. And we do really need to address the tight end spot. Do I look for Kelce to play another 4 solid years? Yeah, I mean, I really do, but it wouldn't hurt to take the load off of him. And like you said, we need to get another blocking tight end or 2 to complement Kelce. He's got a big workload, and I think we need to just take a little bit of it off of him.
Yeah, and I think it's also very important to, like you just touched on, to take some of the load off of him, to have somebody else that we can rely on who can make those catches down the middle and maybe take some of the punishment that Kelce would otherwise be taking onto and let's admit, a somewhat damaged body. I mean, this guy is willing to throw his body into the mix and take some pain over his career, but it's starting to show some wear and tear. I mean, I think the guy can still go for a while, but if we can alleviate some of that tread on those tires, just like a running back, I think that we'll be able to extend Kelce another 2 or maybe 3 years into his career.
I think that's a key aspect to the future success of the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, that's a position that, I mean, you really get banged up, and it shows in every major star who plays tight end. Look, there are some who really went the distance, but it's just such a physical position all the way around. I mean, you're really getting put in lanes down the field that you're looking to take the big hit, like you said. And look, the wide receivers, maybe the slot position, but the guys on the outside, they'll never see hits like this guy's going. They don't ever get sent over the middle like a Travis Kelce does. And I feel like that he will be a Chief for life. I feel like he's going to be productive until the end of his career. And I don't think he's going to go out like a Gronkowski. I think that he's going to be one who goes out on top with his health. And I bet he starts playing a little smarter.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And I think that with the offense and the way that it's being set up, they're going to be able to put him into some healthier positions. Mahomes is going to, having seen it for a year now, I think he's going to be able to put Kelsey into healthier positions to catch the ball as well.
Which definitely something I'd like to see in Kansas City. Not that we haven't seen in the past. I mean, we need a healthier Kelsey going into postseason. So let's talk about. I want to talk about Big Red. Big Red mentioned that Watkins is playing faster than he's ever seen before, and that's what we needed out of Watkins in Kansas City, and that's something that I personally never seen in Watkins' career on any NFL team. So I mean, where are we at with Watkins? I mean, is he really stepping up like everybody says he is?
Well, you kind of have to analyze what Big Red said, and when he says that he's playing faster than he's ever seen him. So he's only seen Watkins for a year. And the way that I'm reading it is Watkins last year was playing slow because he had to think about the route he was running. What do I need to do? How do I do it? What do I need to do? How do I do it? And this year, it seems like he's playing more naturally. The routes that he's running, it comes more natural to him. So he does appear to be faster. He doesn't have to think. He's just reacting. And I think that that's what Reed is talking about, as opposed to any sort of like speed connotation to that.
But see, I really like that, though, because regardless, obviously he's not getting faster, by a running standpoint. He's still an extremely fast receiver. But like you said, when he doesn't have to think about the route tree, when he's running a route and doesn't have to think about the cut that he's making, and like you said, it comes natural. Those cuts get quicker, those routes get quicker, which in turn makes him, a faster receiver. And I think is he learning from Tyreek? Is he really sitting back and watching Tyreek and watching him do these, crazy cuts? And I know that Cheetah's on another level, but I mean, you would think he'd set the standard, and somebody like Watkins, another veteran receiver, would heed that and say, hey, look, I need to study what he's doing and really hone in on this, because this man is having a lot of success.
No, absolutely. And I think that every wide receiver that we have on the roster, even the rookies, they all bring something to the table that everybody else can learn from. You can't necessarily teach speed, but you can teach quickness. You can teach how to make a cut quicker, how to run your routes more naturally, which is really what Watkins was working on last year. And it took a year, but we're finally starting to see the payoff there. And now he's working on another set of goals of being healthier, being more mindful of what he's putting into his body so that his body can be at its peak throughout the season. You look at Pringle, who unfortunately didn't get to play at all last year in the regular season, but he got to watch and learn from everybody. And the passion that he plays with, he and Kemp both on special teams were special teams standouts over the last couple of years. And at least during preseason have been fan favorites because of the effort that they give. And it just feeds off on everybody, and everyone can learn from everyone in that regard. And it's going to make everybody better, especially in this offense.
And it absolutely starts with Big Red. And, the man is such an ambassador and a great teacher. I was watching a little bit of dialogue and film on Andy Reid, and it stated that he, likes to correct players without them knowing it. And then when they finally realize it, that he corrected them, the problem's been solved. And it's just, he's a psychological genius. And the man knows what he's doing, and you're watching a mad scientist at work, and it's a lot of fun. And so, look, we're going to stay on the offensive side of the ball here, but we're going to get into running back depth because, and to me, that's kind of a concern in Kansas City right now. When I look at the names that we have in the backfield, and I look at our starting running back, I'm gonna start this off with one stat, and then I'll let you kind of take away here with Damian Williams. But this is my big thing. The man has played for 5 seasons. Some with the Dolphins, and with the Chiefs. The man in his career has 256 rushing yards for a career high. A career high 256 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, the man has just over 1,000 yards total in his entire career. It's not a starting running back in my mind for the Kansas City Chiefs. I know he stepped in and did some nice things here last season, but I don't like those, and that's horrible numbers. I don't like that for our starting running back. But let me what's your take on Damian Williams? I'm not that hot on this guy. I don't like. He's never played a full season. He's never shown anybody anything. He came into a perfect scenario and had decent numbers.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of contest your numbers that you brought up there for a second. When Williams stepped in last year for the final 6 games of the regular season, he tallied 602 total yards of offense and scored 10 touchdowns. He's the only running back last year to have that many yards and score that many times during any 6-game span, other than the LA Rams' Todd Gurley. Gurley's the only other one who scored that many times during a 6-game span. And he had 602 yards, which is going to contradict the 254 that you mentioned. I think that Williams was able to step in and really show his versatility, but also looking at the history of Reed's offense, he's going to find running backs who fit his scheme, who can catch the ball, who can take it the distance, and then when he's done with them, move on and find the next man up. He always keeps a plethora of running backs who can complement his system. In Philadelphia, he had Westbrook and then McCoy, and then he brings in Sproles. And Sproles was never meant to be the starting back, but as a scat back, he was tremendous in that offense. And with our current system, I mean, yeah, we had Hunt, and we had some decent backups to throw in behind him, and we thought that Charkandrick West and Spencer Ware were going to be the guys, but last year, Williams ends up beating those guys out and taking that starting role.
Yeah, but
so in a way, he's earned it.
I mean, I guess I can see that, but keep in mind the 600 plus yards that you're talking are all purpose. I said 256 rushing yards, but like that's still a career high for a man that has 5 years in the league, going on his 6th year. Like, I don't trust him. There's no way that anybody can sit there and say, okay, the man had 5 good games last season for the Kansas City Chiefs and has never done anything else in his career ever. I don't trust him. How can you trust that?
Okay, so using that exact same philosophy, how did you feel about Mahomes prior to the season last year, before you had actually seen him play a real game? Let's say that Denver game, his rookie year, didn't really count.
I was high on him.
How did you feel going with that? He was unproven then.
Mm-hmm. I was extremely high. He wasn't unproven. He was not unproven at all. That is complete. Nope. See, that's the difference here. You got to watch a whole year of Patrick Mahomes behind Alex Smith and hear everybody talk him up and say he's the next big thing. No one's ever said that about Damian Williams. So that's not a good comparison at all, because Patrick Mahomes has been hyped up since White House High School, and most everybody's known who he is. I had no idea who Damian Williams was until he was a Miami Dolphin, and really he didn't do anything at all. So I can't really compare those two. That's not fair. That's not a fair comparison.
Okay, but your explanation still doesn't fit the mold. So, you're talking about what everybody else is saying about Patrick Mahomes influenced your decision, but then you're going to say what you see and what you hear or about Williams. There's nothing. You have to look at what you see. And going into Mahomes' first year, you hadn't really seen an entire season's worth of ability yet. I mean, yeah, you can look back at college. You can do the same thing with Williams. But at the pro level, you didn't see anything for an entire year from Mahomes yet. And so while you had hope and belief because of what you heard, you didn't know that he was going to end up being as good as he was. And Williams now has the opportunity going into this year, realistically, Williams is where he is right now is where Mahomes was going into last year. He now has the starting opportunity to show the NFL what he can do. And last year's 6 games for us was really just Mahomes' one game in Denver. That was just where he's showing what he can do and that he's capable of getting that starting role.
Well, here's my thing. You can say whatever you want. Like, you can compare whatever you want. Like, I don't trust him. So say what you want. Bottom line, you can't tell me anything that's going to say that I trust him. I'm not going to listen to the comparison to Mahomes because that totally is a horrible comparison and not in any way fair to Mahomes or Damian Williams or any way on the same level, scale, aptitude, nothing at all. Damian Williams will never be a Mahomes. He was never projected to be a Mahomes. He never had that highlight. Nobody was ever like Damian Williams, ever, never. So I don't know, man. Like 6 games, I'm sorry. Like, that's not good enough for me. That's not a good comparison. So I would rather, let's talk about Carlos Hyde. What's up with Carlos Hyde? I feel like he can be a formidable double-headed like monster with Damian Williams. And that's my thing is like Damian Williams, even college, was a double-headed monster. I feel like he can do good. I just don't trust him yet. I see it.
So
go ahead.
Before I get into Hyde, let me just say that by no means am I saying that Williams is going to be a Mahomes-esque force in our offense.
Right.
I'm not saying that he's going to be an MVP quality player. All I'm saying is that as far as the opportunity goes, he's having the same opportunity that Mahomes had to show what he did. But I think that he's going to be very capable in our offense. Trust-wise, I mean, there's a lot of questions where, yeah, we're only going off of 6 games.
Right.
And that's also why this offseason, Reed brought in Carlos Hyde, why he brought in Thompson, and why he brought in I think it was like 2 more running backs this offseason.
2 more Williams.
Yeah.
And then that Marcus Marshall.
Yeah, but Marcus Marshall, he's not going to make it out of training camp.
Do you think Darrell Williams will make it out of training camp?
I'll get there. Let's talk through everybody else first.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, good, man. So going back to Carlos Hyde, Carlos Hyde is 2 years removed from a 1,000-yard all-purpose year with the San Francisco 49ers. Last year, he signed with the Browns, who ended up trading him to the Jaguars, and he didn't really do much there, despite their plethora of problems at the running back position, and they cut him in March. And he went on the record as recently as yesterday to say that coming to Kansas City was a dream scenario for him because we throw the ball to the running backs. Mm-hmm. It's not just hand them the ball and let them ground and pound. And he knows that he has the ability to catch the ball. But there are still scouts out there and analysts out there who say that he can't, and that's not his strong point.
Which is really weird too, because it is back and forth, isn't it? It's weird. I've never. With Hyde, there's been really weird analysis, and it's been so back and forth and up and down. I don't really know where to go with it.
Yeah, and I think that it might be due to the fact that he was with the Niners team that nobody ever paid attention to.
Right.
And then last year with the Browns, at the time they weren't relevant, and they had a couple guys ahead of him, so he never really got to see the field. And then the Jaguars, they had a freaking noodle arm throwing the ball around who couldn't even get it to the running back.
Right.
So nobody ever really got to see his true ability. And coming here to Kansas City, I think that this is the dream scenario for him to, if he really does have that pass catching ability, to truly show it off.
Do you think that Carlos Hyde will help open up the field for Damian Williams?
Absolutely. I think that Hyde will end up being, he'll probably end up winning the third down back position.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially towards the end of the year, and this is a big if Damian Williams ends up going down or loses his starting role, I think that Carlos Hyde steps into that role, and I think that our 6th round pick ends up stepping in and taking over that third down running back position.
Hey, look, and I don't put I look for Darwin Thompson to step in as well. Like, look, James Williams, I'm not really sure about him. The Washington State running back, who's a rookie. Have you really looked into this guy very much, James Williams?
Yeah, so he played in the Mike Leach run offense in Washington State, and the last 2 years he really blossomed as a receiving running back, and he's really good in the open field, and catching the ball out there is going to get him into the open field. Having him run from behind the line and between the tackles is not really his strong point, but he is scary good outside of the tackles.
So 1, 2, 3, Williams, Hyde, and you say Thompson will creep in there?
Oh man. Yeah, I'd have to go with Darwin on that one. And I think that Darrell Williams ends up being a camp casualty.
Yes.
But the other thing to also look at is the history of Reed's running back depth going into the season. He usually has 3 every once in a while. Like last year, he went with 4 because of the lack of depth at tight end. And that's excluding the fullback position. We're not counting that. And I think that this year, again, with the lack of depth at tight end, we might end up going with a 4th running back, especially with the talent that we have there. And so I think that we keep 4. I think that we end up keeping Darwin and Cody. I think we keep both of them because Cody is going to be a surprise to a lot of people. And if we let him, or if we cut him and try to bring him back onto the practice squad, I think we end up losing him. And between losing him or Darrell Williams, I would much rather lose Darrell Williams.
Yes, absolutely. Your breakdown of the running back group is really on key. I'm just interested to see, the bottom of the group here, just because we have a good feeling of, what 1, 2, and 3 is, and then you say, we'll possibly have a 4th. I'm really excited to see who steps up into that 4th position, and maybe somebody will surprise us. It's going to be fun watching the running back position. It just seems like a running back by committee type of a scheme here.
No, well, and everybody, again, the key thing that they were looking for at running back, that you look at all of these guys, everyone brings to the table is they can all catch the ball.
Which is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at Andy Reid's offenses in Kansas City, in Philadelphia, he always has to have a running back who can catch the ball. And that, because that's what they're expected to do, is catch those underneath routes and then break it for a good 10, 15, 20 yards, take it to the house. Because, again, kind of like we use Kelsey, it creates those mismatches against the defense.
Right, and also at the same time, when you have a running back out in the flats who can catch, that opens up the other side of the field for Mahomes to run.
No, absolutely. Or even the attention from Hill on one side, right, or Watkins or Hardman or whomever on the other side. And, oh, man, you got me thinking right now, the way that this offense is going to be set up, the defense has to be on point every single down to shut down everyone.
Yes.
And most of these defenses are not built, nor do they have the depth to do that against our offense.
I don't even know. I personally couldn't name one. I could name a few teams that I think might be able to slow us down. But do I think there's a team in 2019 that can stop the Kansas City Chiefs? I'm not seeing it, Kris. I mean, do you agree with me on that? I'm not seeing a team out there that can really just compete with Kansas City unless it's New England.
I'll take it another step further. I would say historically, there are maybe less than a handful of defenses who could keep up with us, if not shut us down. I mean, you look at the Legion of Boom defense with the Seattle Seahawks. I think that they could probably give us a run for our money.
Mm-hmm. I
question whether or not their offense could keep up with us, but their defense absolutely would match up really well with our offense this year.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we can't have that time capsule of the game. And so you're looking strictly at the teams that are out there right now. There are teams that, based on our projections this year, there's going to be teams that beat us. I mean, I'm not going to be superficial or big-headed and say, oh, we're going to go undefeated, blah, blah, blah. I think that we're going to have a loss or two in there. But I think it's going to be a matter of us losing due to mistakes as opposed to them dominating us.
And I like that outlook too, because realistically, that's really how we lost our games the previous season, and it's really, that's more of a compliment, to our team than it really is a negative aspect. Because look, I mean, I don't mind when we make a mistake and we lose by a point. But I don't like it when we don't show up for a game at all, like the Alex Smith era. And one game we put up 26 points, and the next game we kick a field goal.
Yeah.
And I think that with what we got going on and everything that is projecting, look, we're in such a good position. Such a good position.
Uh-huh.
So, all right, I kind of got a little bit lost and sidetracked on that because I was thinking about this next topic here, and I apologize. Let's kind of transition here, all right? We've got what we're going to do, this season preview, brought to you by Arrowhead Update. This week is, week 4?
Yes.
And we have the Detroit Lions, a Matt Stafford-led Detroit Lions. And in my mind, for Detroit, I would say that Matt has good numbers, but he's not the quarterback that Detroit thought he would be. Look, he can make the throws. He's got a big arm. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know what. Really, I don't look at the Detroit Lions as being a legitimate force against the Chiefs. I don't think we have anything to worry about, but I also think they're one of those teams we can't look past. What do you think?
I have to agree with you there. The Lions, the Stafford-led Lions, have wasted the careers of many a talented wide receiver, namely Megatron. I mean, you put him with almost any other quarterback, and you're talking about a tremendous 1-2 punch for any team to try to defend against. And yeah, Megatron was putting up numbers, but Stafford was throwing so many interceptions, man, they couldn't finish anything. And Stafford got a big contract, very undeservedly, and he's still putting up those same awful numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he can put up 3,000, 4,000 yards. How many wins does he have?
And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing.
That's the one thing that Mahomes said last year that really, really jumped out at me was, I don't care about my personal stats. I care about how many wins we have.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the way it should be. And here's...
Absolutely.
Hey, speaking of Megatron, I wanted to throw this out there. Megatron is at Falcons minicamp right now. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there.
That's intriguing.
It is. I saw that today. I had a notification pop up and said that he is at Falcons training camp, but I'll tell you what, that'd be a good fit for Megatron.
Well, I don't know if that would necessarily be the greatest thing for him to come back at this point. I mean, he's, 4 years removed from the last time that he played?
Yep.
But if he were to go and play with Matt Ryan there, that'd be a tremendous offense because you're looking at Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones and Megatron. That's a scary offense right there.
Extremely
but I think what he's probably doing is more a matter of helping to coach up Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. And even with that tutelage, I could expect Calvin Ridley to really jump out this year. I don't think that there's really much for Julio Jones to really learn from. I mean, he's always been one of the top wide receivers in the league, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon.
No, and it is just intriguing to see him down there and then think of the possibilities. But hey, let's get back to Detroit here. When I look at a Detroit team, I look at a Theo Riddick who really is not a solid running back in any way, shape, or form. I look at a receiving core that I really don't know any names of. A Kenny Galladay, Brandon Powell, Andy Jones. I look at this Lions team as a team that will get overwhelmed by our Chiefs defense, and we'll be after Matt Stafford all day long.
No, absolutely.
I also look for our offense to score. Well, I think this is going to be one of those blowout games no matter where it's played. The Lions just do not match up across the board in any way, shape, or form with the Kansas City Chiefs.
No, their biggest threat is their two safeties lurking over the top. On everybody else at linebacker and D-line, nothing there really jumps out at me. Offensively, you've got Stafford, you've got a mediocre running back, and that's it. Other than Galladay, their leading wide receiver last year, everyone else is coming in pretty much brand new or has always been number 2 or number 3 wide receiver, and nothing really threatening in that offense.
So with our defense stepping up and it actually being a formidable defense this coming up season, and our offense, it's just a complete mismatch all the way across the board, Kansas City. This is one of those scenarios where, like I said, we can't overlook them, but we have no worries against the Detroit Lions. So I want to touch base on one more thing with you, Kris, before we end the show today. Chris Jones missing mandatory minicamp, and with our other players getting signed and extensions, Butker and Schwartz, who are actually at minicamp. What do you say about Chris Jones? Should he get up and get his butt to minicamp and stop holding out, or do you think this is a good move for him and his agent for their future, or what do we got going on here with Chris?
All right, so Chris Jones didn't show up on Tuesday. Later on in Tuesday, Brett-Veach or the Kansas City Chiefs came out and said, we only talk contracts to people who are in camp. And we're seeing that yesterday and today with the extensions that are coming out. Jones, if you're listening, man, you need to get to camp, dude. Get to camp, get paid. You're doing a disservice to your image, man. Prior to this, the last 3 weeks, when OTA started and he was quote unquote holding out from showing up to voluntary camps, which I can't really fault him for. He has always been a team player and put the team first. And this is the first time that we are seeing something contradictory to that. And as a GM, I'm looking at this action and I'm like, okay, maybe the person that we thought you were isn't who you truly are. And that then makes Chris Jones expendable. And when I say expendable, that doesn't mean we're going to cut him, but that means that we're going to potentially say, okay, maybe we need to go another route at this position and look to try to trade you and get some good value in return.
And
he's looking for essentially quarterback money at 20 mil a year. And I'm sorry, dude, like, I love you to death, Chris Jones, but you are not worth $20 million, man. You've had one fantastic year, and that was in a different offense. We're making a scheme switch from the 3-4 to the 4-3, and before I give you big money, I got to see how you perform in this new scheme. I don't want to overpay you and then for you to get lost in this new defense.
Yeah, and that's a huge key too. And I think that if Chiefs Kingdom, sees the bigger picture with the scheme change and what Chris Jones brought to the table last season, yeah, we need to see what's going on with him in this new scheme. I'm not giving a man $80 million when we have no clue what he's going to do under Spags. And look, I'm sure he'll do well, but I feel like we can do well without him. And look, this is a big. I'm going to say the same thing as Chris. Get up, get to training camp, or get to mandatory training camp and get your contract. If you're going to sit out, expect to not get paid and expect to get dealt off to a team that'll put up with that. We are on a Super Bowl run. We do not have time for distractions. I don't want to see any distractions, and I hope Chiefs Kingdom doesn't either. This whole thing can be avoided by the integrity of one. And at this point, with Chris Jones, get on the field. You want to be a Chief, show us you want to be a Chief. You want your money, then sit out and let's see what a Chiefs defense can do without your services. Point blank. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, if I can jump onto that really quick.
Absolutely.
I don't think anybody wants to see Chris Jones in another uniform. Chris Jones, since he steps on the field for the first time, bringing that energy and ruckus. Hell, when he was stepping onto the draft stage in the second round, I mean, the man has a presence and has been a fan favorite. And letting him go in any way, shape, or form, whether it be by trade or just not re-signing him, would be a tremendous, I don't say travesty, but it would be a huge black mark on the franchise. But at the same time, you have to look at it as, okay, who initiated that black mark? And unfortunately, because he moved first, it's going to look bad on him. The Chiefs have made a point to say that they have wanted to re-sign him all off season, and there's a difference between want and will. And the point is that you have to look at everything that's going on, and looking at our cap situation right now with $24 million available after the re-signings, it's probably closer down to 20 right now. But you got $20 million of free cap space right now. But looking at the players that we have to re-sign up in after this season and into next season, that $20 million is only good for this year. And the possibility of somebody becoming available after training camp, they get cut, that we might need to sign somebody off of that waiver wire. And so we have to have that money available in order to make that move just for this year. And signing Jones to a $20 million for 4-year deal, that's going to dampen our ability to sign players in the long term, which is the problem that Dorsey and Pioli both set up in past regimes, is they would give out these ridiculous contracts not thinking about the future, and then when that future smacks them in the face and we have to make or let fan favorites or team contributors go because we can't afford to keep them, it's kind of ridiculous. And I really like what Veach is doing as far as saying, come back, play the year. And I'm not saying that he won't sign him before then, but let's see how you look in this new scheme before we give you some money.
And it's a business decision, and realistically, it's not fair for anyone to think that Chris Jones has earned this huge money to play in a system that he's never played in before, when realistically he had a progressive season and one great season. I haven't seen enough, and I feel like that. Yeah, we need one more year out of him. We got to see him in the new scheme, and that's the bottom line. And that's probably the biggest driving home point that you could bring on with that, Chris, is that we got to see more. We got to see him in this new scheme, and until then, hey, I say that we don't pay him big money.
Yeah, well, and the best analogy that I can come up with as to this current scenario is: are you going to go to a car dealership and buy the exact same car or that you've had for the last 3 years because you just want to upgrade, but you don't take the car out for a test drive? I mean, right now that's kind of what Chris Jones is expecting us to do, is to buy the exact same car without taking it for a test drive first. And if any of the listeners out there have ever bought a car before, you know you have to take that car out for a test drive. Even if it's the dream car that you've always dreamed about, you have to test drive it.
Yep, that's a very, very valid point, and that's the same for an NFL scheme, and that's the point that we're trying to make here. Is just look, be open to anything, Chiefs Kingdom, because anything can happen with this scenario. Anything can happen on a holdout scenario, period. We see it every year at least once with a major player, and realistically, in my mind, money-wise, it typically works out for the player, but they go to a team they don't do anything. It's a sad scenario for the Kansas City Chiefs right now, and I hope we figure it out, and that's where I'm at with the Kansas City. So, with that being said, hey, we'll keep our heads high with Chris Jones. We'll hope that we get something done. This is our broadcast night. We've touched base on the running back depth. We touched base on the Detroit Lions, some of the new signings, as well as Chris Jones. So, Kris Chavez, I appreciate you coming on, man. As always, it's fun talking football with you, my friend.
Likewise, man. Absolutely.
Perfect. All right, Kansas City. Well, that is the show tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is the Richard Smith Show, where we talk about all things Kansas City Chiefs, brought to you by Arrowhead Update from the Kansas City Sports Update Studios. Check us out on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Player FM, YouTube, and all third-party applications. Check us out on all social media platforms, and if you cannot find us there, just Google or search The Richard Smith Show and Kansas City Chiefs, and I promise you will find us. Have a great night, Kansas City.